I decided to record this, but change it to some sort of audio, or have it done in audio. Okay, so what I see here, you mentioned the whole confusion thing and nausea, and I looked up the asteroid that I've done records on, I've done research on, and several things. First of all, let's see here. What I noticed first was this whole clump of planets transiting your sixth house, your fifth and sixth house cusp. It's really the sixth house cusp, and you have planets there. What is it here? Niobe. What is this one? I'm gonna double check. The sun is right now in 11 degrees Virgo. The moon is 20 degrees Virgo. Ah, okay, I see it. So you got Lens, you got the moon, Sphinx, Niobe, Metis, Sun. Okay, so several planets are basically, where Lance is already in the sixth house here, so it's actually conjunct your natal Pluto. I see here, so it's in the sixth house. So Lance is typically about heroism. He likes to be the hero, he likes to be the whole, this Lancelot, basically, trying to prove himself to others. But just because it's the sixth house, this is a lot to do with the body, with the health, Actually, I'm going to do this. That's a lot. Okay, here we go. So heroism, trying to fulfill what you want to do. It's a hero's journey, finding yourself, discovery, all that stuff. On a physical level, because he's about moods, it causes like confusion. There's like moods, something to do with white blood cells, the immune system. Possibly, there's a bunch of other things too, but right here is emotional, like ups and downs. So far, what I've seen here is the tempoparietal junction. I believe that's the center part of the brain between the right and the left, medial prefrontal cortex. But I also wrote here this could be linked to bipolar disorder. I'm not saying that you have that, but and also the immune system. Something about being, it's because of this, based on the mythology, right? So, but it's conjunct Pluto. Pluto is rules the lower part of the body, the anus. And what that usually does is that because it rules that area, it has a lot to do with what's this one called? You know what? I'm just gonna look at my my cheat sheet here. Oh, that's fixed stars. Okay, so Pluto is Okay. So Pluto rules anything to do with the eliminative and reproductive system, excretory organs, excretory organs, destructive process, the unconscious, bacteria, viruses for strength and survival. So any sort of toxins. The way I understand it is because you have your Pluto opposite of your Chiron, and you have the collective node, collective north node, transiting your Chiron. It's almost like this pull of this push for, I guess you can say, like aggressive nature of people, of society, and it kind of triggers that in yourself, and you kind of need to isolate or need to not necessarily isolate, so like find time to seclude yourself or process things in sort of in meditation. Could be sort of places. Yeah, I could see also isolate. I mean, you have your Chiron retrograde. This is why you need a lot of time to meditate, because it's your Chiron is in retrograde in Aries, and it's is actually it was in Aries, so that means it usually implies freedom, a lot to do with possibly also like the headaches, because we were talking about Pluto here in the sixth house opposite of Chiron, and with Chiron in that case it has a lot to do with the immune system as well, so it kind of ties in with Lancelot here. Your own birth natal Chiron is square Lancelot Metis, yeah. And Metis is actually what is she about? Because your Metis is in the 8th house. No, it's in the 9th house. So typically Metis in the 9th house would be okay, so deep thoughts, prudence, impartiality, neutrality, fear after pleasure, buyer's remorse, vulnerability. Okay, no, not vulnerability. So kind of like how this ties into the 9th house is because 9th house is philosophy. It's a lot to do with that deep thoughts and wisdom. But it's also about typically dealing with foreigners or big businesses. So a lot of shifting going on, mutations, transmutations, transformations. So she was according to the mythology, she was the first wife and advisor to Zeus. So she was always about counsel. So you kind of act this way, particularly with foreigners, and this is part of what is in your part of when you have business, part of when you explore things are very, when you take risks. Because it was in Capricorn though, it means it's a lot to do with success and careers. So a lot of changes. I wouldn't say a lot of changes, but yeah, I would say changes as part of this. So you become like this advisor, but it's a release of toxic and foreign things. So that ties in with the 9th house. Square it to Chiron. It's almost like this loss of freedom. But you also have Chiron opposite of Uranus, which is like your nervous system. It's in the 6th house. It deals a lot with nervous system. So we're talking about the immune system, and the nervous system is part of this whole process. You have this technically this grand, so it's T square between Lance, Metis, actually Niobe, Frigga as well. Frigga is according to mythology, she was the Norse goddess of love, something like that. So she kind of has she was kind of partial when it came to who she was helping, who she was giving advice to. She also represents things information that's squeezed out, and so it's like resistant or release. So it's both the unconscious and conscious part of ourselves, the duality. But she's in your ninth house. She's also, so this is a lot also to do with. It's almost like you're part of this process of the ninth house journey that you have throughout life is getting that, intimacy, closeness, and squeezing of information, closeness, bonding. So I would say that this also has a lot to do with that connection you have with, I would say also say foreigners. Foreigners, but I would probably say foreigners who are also like, I don't want to say rich, but that's Capricorn. It's like in a material world, in a material sense, in systems, foreign systems, those kind of things. But there's also probably, I would say, a sense of exaggeration. You have Niobe here. Niobe is about grandiosity. So exaggeration, grandiosity, misplaced unconscious pride, a lot of bragging, boastful. I'm not saying that you do that. I'm just saying that's just part of the mythology, so I have to tie it in here. So this could be fortune or misfortune, life or death, meaning beginnings or endings, or continuations or changes. Trophies is part of this one as well. How this ties into the ninth house is definitely, let's see here. Family business. Okay, that makes sense here. Fortune passed down, inheritance. So something to do with inheritance, something to do with family business, or any people that you have connections with, and that becomes your family, that becomes your brother. And when that happens, it's almost like this, it is sort of like this, you become this advisor, right? You become this sort of heroic advisor. You kind of want to save people and kind of want to be in charge of that. But at the same time, that kind of like triggers and pulls at this, your immune system and your nervous system. So it's almost like you're giving too much of yourself, right? And with the Frigga, Niobe made his Lancelot in conjunction. Stellium actually here in Capricorn. It's almost like let me go deep into Capricorn here. It basically is, there's perfectionism included here, like discipline, hard work, being serious, but it makes you reliable. And that, but the thing is, like, when it becomes that sort of like that stubbornness, like that sort of like, it's maybe over ambition, and possibly like, I wouldn't say judgments are part of this one, but possibly. Right, so basically what I'm getting here is the energy of like control, particularly with business, or particularly with anything sort of philosophy that you have, and maybe when you're in university or higher education, your own belief systems, and that need to kind of like save, right? Again, it pulls at Chiron and Uranus here. And when it does that, it adds, it basically, it does affect the immune system. So it doesn't show me how you were talking about the nausea thing. I'm just looking at the house of health first, or the sixth house. But if I were to look into the eighth house, I see nothing here. But hold on, let me double check. You have your Mercury in your eighth house. This is always the area where you mentally transform. Because you have Mercury there in Sagittarius. Square the moon. Okay. The moon is conjunct Haumea. So this always means that we talked about this before, where you You often need to regenerate away from connections, particularly even like children. But at the same time, they also kind of help you regenerate because you're kind of more in touch with your childlike self, your curiosity that serve the youthful nature of the Virgo placement here. Your moon Haumea is conjunct in Virgo. You have the sun actually. The sun is transiting. It's conjunct your moon and Haumea, so it's giving you a lot of energy and giving you a lot of that vitality in your ability to regenerate. But it's more through the little things. It's more through hard work. It's more through all that stuff. But that pulls at your Mercury even more. Let's see what we have here. Your Mercury is actually square Sphinx. Sphinx can be about confusion. But Sphinx, as we all know, it's like riddles, right? That's what we know about Sphinx. But it's more than that. It's about problem solving. It's almost like this. It's kind of ties in with the ninth house placement we already talked about. It's very like analytical, right? But there's also like this sort of duality, ego-based split here between right and wrong, conundrums, because that's what Sphinx rules, dilemmas, questionings, things, this or else. Based on the mythology, Sphinx is also about being merciless or benevolent, strength and ferocity, boundaries, sovereignty, megalomania, magnanimosity, standing one's ground, forcing things, subduing, subjugation. But because it was in Pisces, it's almost like this dissolving of that. And with the Mercury in Sagittarius, it's kind of opposite of that. Sagittarius has more about the control because it believes that it's like this, I know my beliefs are right and I'm sure. Pisces is a softer sign. It's water. But it's more inward looking. But Sphinx in your own natal chart is conjunct Hera. And Hera was about jealousy in general. Hera was also about, let's double check here. Being prudent or jurisprudence. Okay, so conjunct Sphinx, it's almost like, let me see here. Sense of duties or judgment, commitment. It's almost like, I'm not saying that there's manipulation here, but that can be part of it as well. It's in your 11th house. So it's almost like you kind of have not just typical experience of like, what do you call this? It's like you're trying to solve riddles. It's conjunct Sphinx. It's almost like you're trying to sort of problem solve where you feel kind of abandoned by social like communities or groups or neighbors, possibly any sort of group settings, any sort of social circles. How that ties in with the confusion thing is that you have. Let me see here. I don't see it in the opposition to the moon here. Because you have the sun conjunct your own natal moon, which means it's conjunct, of course, Haumea. I don't know if that necessarily would be about the confusion thing. But because Sphinx is square your Mercury, I wonder what's in Mercury. I don't see anything. Let's see. I mean, if you're talking about if it's recent, if I were to look at your birth chart, that's the confusion that happens is probably kind of normal. But I would say that it's let's see, is that even conjunct? Actually, let's take a look. 16 degrees. Okay, well, Saturn is square your Mercury right now, but that would kind of add confusion to a certain degree. It still doesn't explain why you feel nauseated. $13 degrees. Okay, let's double check this one. Okay, so Niobe is Niobe is about 17 degrees Virgo. It's a transit. No, 19 degrees Virgo. Metis is 17 degrees. So if it's, I don't know if it has anything to do with like this sort of, I think maybe could be that there's too much, I don't know, because this is external stuff. This is a transit. So if Metis is transiting your fifth house, and it's squaring your Mercury, it could be that it's a release that's happening. Maybe because Metis is also a release of toxic and foreign things, foreign substances. In the mythology, she was the one who kind of she's the one who Zeus swallowed her? Sounds funny. Zeus swallowed her, and basically she was already pregnant with Athena. Or is it? Yeah, that's right. She's already pregnant with Athena, so she's the kind of she represents foreign substances that do not belong in the body. She represents things that are kind of like, that doesn't belong here. But it also could mean that it's what do you call this? Things that are small, things that we kind of don't see, which ties in with the Virgo placement of Metis and the Sun here. Particularly, a lot of the planets are in Virgo right now, in your chart at least. So Metis here is square your Mercury. That's the closest one I could say, because Mercury in the 8th house, it's still a house of health, but it's more psychological health. But it does still, I mean, if you're feeling something like with your arms, your maybe the mouth area, like where your throat is, you feel like throwing up, I would say that probably can be caused by not only with the moon and the mood swings, but with the sun conjunct that, and Metis is also there. It could also mean that it's like there's something that wants to come out. There's something that wants to be released. There's something that wants to... okay, I see here. Metis also represents headaches, because she was the one who caused the headache when she was pregnant with Athena in Zeus's head. Or rather, it's weird because now it's like Metis asks, like, it's, the stereotypical gender roles where the female gets pregnant, but in this case Zeus got pregnant with Athena, but actually was Metis. It's symbolism of foreign things that shouldn't, not that they shouldn't be there, but it's like, it's almost like maybe you caught some sort of energies that's not supposed to be there. So it's almost like you became this energetic surrogate. Okay, so splitting headaches, maybe that's probably part of that. I don't know if you feel like vomiting. I would say if you feel like vomiting, I would not resist that. I don't like vomiting. Nobody likes that. But if something it could be something physical, it could be also energetic. Maybe energetically vomit it. I don't know how that's going to be. You need an energetic epicac. I'm going to look up something here. I'm gonna look at her chart. I mean, the crystals I got for her. Let me see here. Amethyst, citrine, ametrine, clear quartz, rose quartz, emerald, lapis lazuli, selenite, amber, aquamarine, hematite, chrysocolla. Careful of chrysocolla, apparently, if you don't wash your hands after. I don't know, there's something about chrysocolla. I would say amethyst because amethyst is purple, right? Amber is good for the immune system and toxins. I use amber a lot. I just like using it. And to help with that process as well, rose quartz, it's a little bit more gentle. Hematite is quite heavy. I think you kind of know this. But there's also one here for nausea. So unakite is more about integration. Citrine is also mentioned here. Labradorite is very heavy. Labradorite actually accesses I did a research on this, and labradorite is, it's what is it called? The galactic gate or something? It's like the 10th chakra. It's beyond, what is it? Hold on, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The 12th chakra. The last of the 12 chakras or something like that. There's more. But it's like the galactic up here. That's labradorite. So if it's anything energetic, I would connect all of them. So something down to the earth, but also out there. Detox. Oh, the Himalayan salt crystals. Okay, interesting. So hematite is the one that's calling out, I see here. Hematite. Inflammation could be part of this as well. Amazonite. No, I don't think so. You can if it's more energetic. It's Amazonite is green, right to the heart. But selenite is the one that I feel like is something to do with cleansing. So I'm a little out of it, to be honest, when I'm reading this. I'm a little out of it. But what I've seen so far is this is what I've seen so far. So it could be that. You also have Venus conjunct right now. Venus is conjunct the South Node. The collective South Node, which is I believe it's going to be conjunct your Uranus right here. But I don't see it as a conjunction right now. It is in your 6th house. So it just means that there's like probably old relationships or things that are coming back up in terms of like physically speaking, because it is the 6th house. Let's go to Venus here. Throat, chin, cheeks, sense of taste, kidneys, lumbar region, parathyroids, venereal disorders, glandular swellings of the neck. But because it's in Libra, the lumbar region, endocrine system, kidneys is part of that. So trying to be balanced as well. So that kind of makes sense. But with the South Node, there's the collective South Node transiting Libra right now, or at least it's going to be like that for a while. I don't know when it's going to switch over to Virgo. The nodes behave differently. They don't go counterclockwise like the planets. They go clockwise. It's weird. But anyways, it's conjunct Venus, so that kind of makes sense with the whole balance thing. It's in Libra. I mean, you also have Uranus Libra, so that kind of shows there. I'm not sure which rules nausea. I totally don't. Nausea is balance, so it's more with that's more with Taurus. Let's take a look at what's in Taurus right now. That makes sense. Well, Uranus in Taurus. So you have Uranus in retrograde in Taurus. You saw in the video that Uranus in retrograde, it's pulling back in Taurus. So there's more of like little bits and pieces of people. Because it's in retrograde, it means that not only is it repeating itself, it feels like it's going to be stuck. It also feels like small pockets of the world are experiencing this. Groups of people who are not used to change, for example. It's trine. Apparently in the video she said that there's going to be trine. Venus is trine to Uranus, or is it Venus trine to Pluto? I don't see a trine there. Uranus is, however, trying to Lancelot, so that kind of makes sense, where it's almost like people want to solve things, but on a smaller scale. Let's go back to Lancelot. So there might be some sort of inner conflicts, strong versus weak, black and white, shifting, extreme emotions, confusion of role, specifically in servitude, or because you also, it applies to the Virgo thing. Virgo is servitude. Duality, of course, is part of this process. Heart versus mind. Do we trust our heart? Do we listen to the mind? So this is what's also causing that energy. Plus with you, with Lancelot is transiting your 6th house. So that means it's going to affect you on your health. It's already affecting you at a lower level. It's like down to your lower body parts, like the Pluto is down there, in the ass area. Sorry to say, I'm not trying to laugh at anything. I'm just saying that's what I see here. Yeah, so different bunch of areas, but Lancelot is the one that I see here that's pulling at that. That's making more sense right now. But it's trine Neptune. I think if you surrender to it, it's sextile your natal Neptune and Sun. If you allow for your vitality to trust in the process and trust maybe if there's assistance you get and people you had connections with, you don't have to do it, of course, alone. I think you already know this. That's what I'm seeing here. So with Lancelot sextile, it's conjunct Pluto and it's sextile your natal Neptune Sun placement. It means that you would have to put more energy into it, but energy where it's like you're also letting it go at the same time. I don't know if that makes sense. Lancelot is square the transiting Neptune retrograde. That could also be confusion, because it's trying to balance things. If you have let me go backtrack a little bit. Because Lance is trine Uranus right now. No, it's Pluto. There's a natural tendency to detoxify, but on a smaller scale, like smaller groups of pockets. It's in retrograde. That's how I see it, but it could also be that it's going to stay there for a while until all the toxins are released. Energetic toxins, actual toxins, mental toxins, any of that kind of stuff. Lancelot is going to be kind of confused about it, or inner Lancelot. Plus, with your own natal chart, it's going to add to that, like, so your Pluto, the collective Pluto retrograde is trine your own natal Pluto. So you feel a lot of release probably happening health-wise, also possibly like career-wise. I don't know if you're feeling that. Not sure if that's part of that, but definitely like the public opinions, any sort of things that need releasing, anything that needs cleaning, and it's really going to stay there until you get rid of it, until you really like vomit it out. That could be literal, that could be figurative, that could be all of it. And because of all that stuff, the toxins can cause a dizziness as well, because it is stuck in there. I know that when I have strong Pluto placements, so that means that whenever I get something down here, when I feel like gassy or I need to go to the bathroom, I need to fart, it affects me. And I get kind of like it push. Well, at least for me, I have Mercury Uranus in Scorpio, so it affects me mentally. And Mercury rules the part of the head as well, kind of part of the head, vision, smites the senses. Not all the senses, that's more of a Taurus thing, but yeah, around this area. So, what else is here? For you, because you have your placements, you have your Sun, you have Jupiter, you have a bunch of other planets here. Adonis is here as well. Cassandra is here. You have Hecate as well. A lot of other planets as well. I forgot what there's the other planets. But you have Venus here. So Venus is also about balance to a certain degree. Yes. So that explains the whole imbalance that you might feel, especially if it's like, for you, it's more like any sort of relationship you have with people, any contracts you've been into, agreements you've made. It could be part of a soul contract, any form of contract. And because Pluto rules Venus and Mars rules Venus, I'm going to skip Mars for now, but because Pluto rules Venus and you have your Mars, your Pluto trine, the Pluto, collective Pluto trine your own natal Pluto and Lancelot over there, that makes sense. So the nausea you're feeling is not so much in the head, it's more like coming up down from probably the kidney area, the lower area of the body, something that needs to be released. But it could be also energetic. Like I said, it could be all of it. That makes sense. Because Uranus is also retrograde right now, and it's actually Uranus has been actually it's been transiting your first house, but it's also Uranus has been transiting your first house with Sedna, and Sedna is coming back to bring forth like things of the past, things that need to be released completely, like, and forgiven. It's not going to feel like that because it isn't retrograde. It's going to feel like we're collectively speaking as humans, we're kind of like doubting it. For you, it's transiting your first house, so that affects your whole body. The first house represents the entire body overall, general health, not necessarily health, but general health. Yeah, basically the whole body. But it's conjunct your Varuna, and you have Varuna in retrograde in your first house, opposite of your Sun Neptune placement. So Varuna is about cohesion, bridging things. It's like he kind of represents bridges, glues, adhesives. This sort of like completion, a sense of completion. But Varuna here with the Saturn Sedna conjunction, it's going to kind of like basically shake your, basically physically as well. You're going to feel all this sort of shakiness, and maybe it's not even going to be, it's going to be not necessarily shakiness, or it might not even feel like it's there, but and when it does, it's kind of like this sort of, it's almost weird. It's almost like there's a sense of stability, but it's uncertain. It's almost like an uncertain uncertainty. I don't know if that makes sense. And because of the retrograde placement, and Uranus rules the nervous system, it makes sense. Sedna rules fat. So, actually, let me go back here. And this is Sedna rule. Circadian rhythm. That makes sense. Fat, metabolism, hypothalamus, the growth hormones, endocrine system, the glands, pituitary, thyroid, thymus, circular church. I would have wrote down here. Blood, probably. Not sure. Could be. Liver, urinary system. So that kind of ties in with the placement in Venus. Your Venus, right? We have Venus here, but Venus. Let's see here. It's Venus. It's more about the Libra placement. Let's see. Because you have Mercury, sorry, you have Uranus, Sedna, trine. Let's see here, double check. Sedna is Sedna is trine your natal Pluto, which means that it's also trine, it's in transiting Lancelot. It's, that kind of makes sense with the whole circadian rhythm. And if your circadian rhythm is affected, you're probably feeling like you don't have the circadian rhythm. You haven't been feeling kind of off. For me, I know I've been on a kind of really off. I haven't been feeling, I have Uranus, transiting Uranus, Sedna right now. It's still opposite of my own natal Uranus, Mercury, and a bunch of other planets there. Apollo is there too. Helios is there. Who is this? Achilles is there. A bunch of other things too. So I've been kind of feeling this sort of like, I've mentioned the whole losing track of time, but I feel like I can't sense things properly. I feel like I have to kind of slow down even more than normal. Like I'm already slowing things down, but then it also feels this rush, like I need to rush, but I'm not really rushing. So see what I mean with the Uranus thing? So it's weird. So I hope that kind of answers a lot of things. I don't really see anything else here. Oh, yeah, Makemake has been here for a while. Makemake is conjunct your Uranus, Juno there as well. Makemake is like thought beyond thought beyond thought. It's like heavy, it's like that sort of like, Makemake represents, it's beyond communication. It's the awareness of cosmic connection. It's almost like when you get all these downloads, like that it's like very heavy. It's almost like from the ether realms. I don't know if that makes sense. But he's also about like going beyond the reaches of thought. It's almost like unthought. I don't know if that makes sense. Inspirations. Um, but she's also about like winning and losing, so racing. So I mean, it's almost like this rush of information that needs to be here. With Make Make transiting your sixth house, something to do about a sixth sense. Okay, yeah, sixth sense, strong sight of smell, your senses. Could also be your eyes. I don't know if you're getting those kind of things. Maybe that's why you're also feeling dizzy. So a lot of that stuff. Maybe there's a sort of been this pull for a long while now. It's like curiosity and wit, but it's like beyond towards highest knowledge and wisdom, elevation, a love of people. Like you become more open and kind of also committed to that, because you also have Juno transiting your sixth house. But Juno, not just about loyalty and purity as well, but also about this whole thing about counseling again. It kind of goes back to the whole counseling thing. So it's almost like with your, let's see here. It's in 12 degrees. Juno is about 9 degrees, 10 degrees. Make is around that degree. But it's square your natal Lance is Frigga Niobe. So that explains the whole confusion thing. Especially when you're dealing with when it's related to business. So it feels like because it's also in the sixth house. The sixth house is also the house of service. So if you're overdoing the service thing, if you're overdoing helping others and you're not focusing on what inspires you, it's gonna pull at it, and then your own. It's almost like there's this Lancelot is in your natal chart is in the ninth house. Lancelot is like self-sabotage as well. Sorry to say, because he was the one who set up his own problem. He created those problems by creating that there was this problem to solve in the first place. That's Lancelot, just the needing to solve something, the needing to rescue, right? So heroism. Should that make sense? Yeah. So I think that's that. I hope that kind of helps. I don't know if that provides insights. I'm not feeling it as well. Like I'm completely off myself. So it feels like when I'm reading, I haven't been in the mood to read anything. And I'm just kind of looking at it and not really talking about it. I did a few, and that's kind of the most. I did one last week for someone. But yeah, it's kind of like off. It feels off. Maybe it's not really off. It just feels off. So I can understand why. I hope that helps though.